All right, guys, in this video, we are going to answer the question for land investors, which is who buys our deals, right? One of the most common questions we get is, am I going to get stuck with these properties if I buy them, right? Who actually buys rural land? So we're going to go through the steps that you need to accomplish to ensure that you can sell your property. We'll actually go into kind of the psychology of land buyers. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sumner Healey. Some people call me the most handsome land investor in the industry. That's a joke. I'm going to get absolutely roasted in the comments for that. I like making videos online. I like helping people in the land space. We run a little coaching program called Leah. If you guys want to get involved inside of our Discord, landinvestor.co/Discord, you'll find that link down below. Come hang out with me and others. It's a good time in there. Many 6- and 7-figure land investors. Anyways, let's talk about this, right? When I go into the land business, my biggest kind of reservation is like, well, what if I go and buy these properties and no one buys them? And the truth is about land investing, this is a little secret, okay? It's much easier to acquire land than it is to dispose of land, right? When we look at a land business, there's 3 components. There's acquisitions, there's operations, and dispositions. Dispositions has always been the hardest. And think about it, there is so much supply of land out there, right? And there's a modest amount of demand. So when we have that much supply, it's relatively easy to go and buy these properties. The rub is there's a much smaller supply of buyers, right? So the real competition that we feel in the land business is in terms of getting eyeballs on our listing and getting buyers to actually buy our thing, right? So there's a few things that we have to do to ensure that we actually don't get stuck with properties, right? It can happen. Someone said that there's a buyer for every property, and I would believe that, right? It's kind of an old adage in the land space. I've heard people say there's a pig for every barn, which I love that saying. And then it is true. All deals will sell. But if we look at the average for Leah members, what we usually expect is about 60 to 90 days, right? So if we can move an illiquid asset like land in 60 to 90 days, we're doing something different, right? We're doing something special. So let's go through that. So before we actually go through and talk about who the heck buys these things, we got to focus on the 4 principles that we have to adhere to. If we don't do these correctly, we're SOL, okay? The trouble is you can't control dispositions, right? You can only control the things on the front end. What that looks like is picking the correct markets, pricing correctly, marketing correctly, syndicating correctly. Let's go and unpack that, okay? The top of the funnel for the land business is picking markets. There's like almost an unlimited choice out there for how many counties you can work in. There's over 3,000 counties. And within a county, there's many submarkets you can work in. It's overwhelming. You've got too many choices. And so what you need is a framework to decipher the good from the bad. And this is exactly what we teach Leah members. First step inside Leah is showing them our framework for saying good market, bad market. You've got to have something that's relatively binary, it's black and white, because there's too much gray area, okay? So we use kind of these internal metrics for demand levels, for supply levels, what we call sell-through rate. And you got to balance how much demand there is, aka sell-through rate, with the appropriate amount of supply. You've also got to ensure that in those markets, you got to say, hey, is there actually demand for the kind of land that I'm going to be selling, right? You are literally bringing a product to market, okay? If no one wants iPhones, don't bring iPhones to market. It's the same thing here. Most people don't think about it in terms of you are delivering a product to people, but you really are. So we got to make sure there's actually demand for the thing that we're going to go and buy. What I recommend to everyone that's just getting started in land is just pick whatever sub niche you want to go after. It could be rural recreational land, could be rural infill, could be infill. Pick something and just stick with that. It's going to help you narrow down your market selection choices. It's going to ensure that you're working in the right markets. People actually want the thing that you're bringing to market. I see people that buy quarter-acre lots in Mojave County, Arizona. Okay, if you don't know where Mojave County, Arizona is, it's the middle of nowhere, south of Las Vegas, where I live. No one wants quarter-acre lots out there, right? People want 5-acre, 40-acre, 100-acre, 200-acre, 300-acre because it's barren wasteland. So don't bring a quarter-acre to market and expect it to move quickly, okay? The next thing is pricing correctly. So we can control the markets we work in, and then we control the pricing. The pricing is what we make our offers at to owners. When we go and market to owners, we can control those prices. And then at the end of the day, we get to have final say on the price that we do the deal at, right? We can walk away from deals. You're never stuck into a deal. Some people get this like kind of like a sunk fallacy where it's like they think they have to do the deal because they're in talks to the seller. If the math ain't perfect, walk away, right? Much better to not do a deal than to do a subpar deal. It will be a black hole in your business. So pricing correctly, both in terms of our marketing and in terms of what we do the deal at. The truth is, in this business, we have to sell under retail, right? So we have to take into account, you're not going to maximize the land's value. You never will. If you want it to move in an appropriate amount of time, you've got to give an added incentive beyond just the things we're going to cover here to a consumer, which is going to be priced appropriately. Right? So if we look at most land deals that we do, we typically sell them at 90-95% of retail value. It depends on the market. If you're in a hot market, you can get away with that. If you're in a crappy market, there's lots of mispriced inventory, you might be at 60% of retail value. We've had many deals that look like that, right? Now, typically, the markets that have very limited demand, the good news is we can typically buy those for pennies on the dollar. So even though we're selling at 60 cents versus retail listing, we might be buying at 20 cents on the dollar. All right, really, my favorite kind of deals to do, though, are deals that we buy at 45 to 55 cents on the dollar. We sell at 90 to 95 cents on the dollar in a really hot market. deals that sell in hours or days. Those are the kinds of deals I like to do, right? And typically because there's so much demand in those markets, prices are going to be higher. Okay. I would rather go make 200 grand on a deal, even if my ROI is a little compressed. Okay. I only made 90% ROI. Great. I made 200 grand. I'm just happy about the ease of that transaction for how much I got back. Opposed to a deal that makes me 20 grand, even though it has a 300% ROI, I'm less interested in that. Okay. ROI is not really the key metric that we look at. Raising capital is pretty easy in this business. So it's about how much dollar value can we get per deal and how quickly can we sell that, right? Is another part just to kind of add into this, really that everything that we do in this business, at least how we teach it, is turn time, right? If you want to grow a big land business, pull back your days on market. Just turn deals. Especially as a new land investor, you'll scale kind of your nest egg faster, right? If you've got buku bucks, then sure, you can go sit on deals for years and not worry about it. But for most of us, taking our days on market from 90 to 30 is a big deal. And it'll allow us to grow exponentially, right? Because we can keep on compounding that money, send more marketing, do all that stuff, right? That's going to be picking the right markets, and then pricing correctly is going to allow us to do that. One thing is, I don't think I've ever sold a deal at a retail price. I literally don't think I've, out of almost 600 plus deals, I don't think I've ever sold one at a retail price. Just kind of how the cookie crumbles. Some people are disappointed by that. You've got to have the expectation that this is a garage sale, right? You got to sell at discounts. People aren't coming to your garage sale to pay retail. Give them a discount. The next thing is market correctly. Okay. I'm not talking about marketing on the acquisition end. I'm talking about marketing on the disposition end. This is one of like the easiest value adds that so many land investors just F up royally. I think typically it's because most land investors have never ran a business before, right? The truth is, most of you guys watching this video, this is your first tango with entrepreneurship. You don't know jack squat about marketing, and that's okay. That's why we've created a really, really simple playbook that we just pass off to our students, because frankly, what worked hasn't changed in years. It's just kind of like this rinse and repeat. You take your photos like this, you do it like this, you write your description like this. Like, it's really, really repeatable, but it makes all of the difference, right? I'll tell you a quick story. We had a Leah member who got like 4 or 5 deals in a market that I've worked in very, very, very often. It's one of my favorite markets in Colorado, okay? These deals typically would make you 30 to 40K profit per pop. They're like the buy for 30, sell for 60, buy for 40, sell for 80 type deals. Sweet spot. Love doing those kinds of deals. Rural recreational, these are like 20 to 40 acre properties. I've sold many, many properties in the same little subdivision in Colorado, and we typically will sell them in, let's say, 20 to 45 days, okay? He had his deals up for like that same amount of time and hadn't received a single interested buyer or offer or someone to walk the property. What was the difference? We're priced exactly the same, but his marketing was horrible. I said, look it, you didn't follow the marketing plan. We went and we revamped all of that, right? We did the photos. One of the things that's so important for the rural recreational game is you've got to zoom out and get the buyer a bird's eye view. When your realtor or you takes a picture of a tree, this tells no one anything about the property, right? No one can make a buying decision from a photo of a shrub. So there's just a few key things that you got to do there to make sure your marketing is done correctly. There's 2 things that we look at for marketing, okay? The first is getting the click. So when someone's going through Zillow or whatever, maybe there's 30 options, we've got to have an enticing enough image or breakdown of the property to get a click, right? Go over to our website and look at our marketing compared to most people's. You'll see a radical difference. Okay, cool. We got to get a click. Now, once we have the click, now we got to get a conversion, okay? That conversion could be from having calls to action in the description, can be just from the marketing copy, can be from the additional images. So we got to get the click. We've got to get the conversion. The way I think about marketing is you really only have 3 photos and like 3 sentences. Okay, so I want you to think about it like that. You might upload 40 photos, but you've really got 3 photos to change someone's mind. Typically, that first one's obviously going to matter the most. And then in the description, you've got 3 sentences. Okay, so we want to have a call to action right there, big, loud, and proud. Typically for us, might say, hey, fill out this form to get more drone photos. Fill out this form to get a property detail report. Fill out this form to get a hand-drawn map from Sumner. Something like that, right? Okay. The next is syndicate correctly. What do I mean by syndicate? Well, some people come into this business and they say, yeah, Sumner, I put my property on land.com and it's been 3 months and I haven't sold it. Okay, that's a good start, but we got to cast a very wide net, right? On land.com, for example, you might get 5 to 10 qualified leads a month. That might not be enough to move the needle, right? Some properties we need to get dozens of leads to move the needle. And so the cost is very, very incremental to go and list on land.com, land flip, Zillow, Redfin, all these places. So do it, right? It's a small additional cost to really, really move the needle. We've got to maximize all of the listing platforms out there to extend our reach. Now, this is only worth doing if we've done these 2 things correctly, right? Price correctly and market correctly. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention on point number 2, in the land business, one of the biggest opportunities that we have is to offer owner financing, right? Most banks aren't going to lend on land under $250,000. That's kind of the sweet spot that we teach. So there's a huge opportunity to add owner financing. It could cut your days on market by a third in some cases. Like it's a really big difference. So you might be saying, but Sumner, I don't want to carry notes, right? I don't want to have the recurring revenue. Personally, I love notes, right? We have 30, 40K a month of recurring revenue that comes in. And we've got our half dozen or a dozen cash sales that we do every month. It just adds a really, really nice base to our business. But I understand, maybe you don't want to hold on to the notes. That's fine. You can always go and sell those notes, typically 80 cents on the dollar, right? If you're using what's called a deed of trust, you're closing through title. There's many, many note buyers out there that will pay you at the closing table. And so you can treat that like a cash sale. You can pull your days on market down by a third and then liquidate that note. In a lot of cases, you're going to get pretty much the same amount you would for the cash value, right? Because there's always a premium to owner financing based on the time value of money. So we got to make sure we're doing this first, okay? Now let's talk about who actually buys these things. Well, the truth is, in this country, in North America, there's a very deeply ingrained lust for land, if you will, right? It goes back to like the days of the founding fathers. I mean, at one point, you couldn't vote in this country unless you were a landowner, right? Owning land was the highest kind of symbolism of like, I've made it, I've achieved something. And while it's not as prevalent today as it once was, it still very much is at the back of everyone's mind, it seems, right? We got a lot of people that are first generation Americans that really desperately want to own land because it's such a seal of approval. And we get folks that are blue collar and white collar that feel very similarly, right? A lot of times these people that buy these properties from us, it's not for one sole use case, okay? That's why I'm such a big proponent of the rural recreational business model in the land business, because it has almost unlimited use cases, right? Think about a property that's 40 acres, 2 hours outside of Dallas, Texas. You could buy it as a land banking investment. You could buy it as a kind of a symbolism thing. You could buy it as an insurance policy in case the world goes crazy and you need someone to grow food and live on. You could build a homestead on it. You could shoot your guns on it. You could build a house on it, right? There's so many different things that you can do. That's why I love going after assets in the land business that aren't kind of painted into a corner for just doing one thing. Okay. If you're the kind of person selling quarter-acre lots in Phoenix, Arizona, if new home builds go down or if something changes in the economy, it's going to be directly linked to what happens to your property. I like rural recreational land because good economy, bad economy, it still fares pretty well, right? In fact, what we saw during COVID is a huge spike in interest for rural recreational land because people were scared. People didn't know what was going to come next in the world. People always flock to the security of land. Trust me, it's an amazing asset to hold onto your book. So I'm not like fearing, oh God, the economy is going to shift radically and I have to hold on to these properties. I know long-term will always fare well with these things. And even in a down market, we still have demand for these kinds of assets. So let's talk about the kinds of buyers. Really, the thing that shifts the kinds of buyers that you deal with is really just price point. What I found about land is it's not dogmatic to a certain kind of buyer, right? So if you're on the lower end of the market, call it $10,000 and below type properties, it's going to be a lot of blue collar folks. It's going to be a lot of first generation Americans. Okay. People that just moved their family here that are really set on owning land. And it's more just like a pride thing. It's a symbol thing. Whose properties typically have very low kind of intrinsic value. Like people aren't going to build a house on those typically. The model that we teach inside Leah, which is our kind of mid-market strategy, 25,000 to $250,000. That's kind of the sweet spot that we teach, that we play in for a multitude of reasons. And there it's going to be a mixed bag, right? We get a lot of working professionals. Like during COVID, we had a lot of people from the Bay Area working at tech startups making $200K a year that wanted to own land, right? So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. Now, as you start going up market, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million and above, it's going to move more into like family offices. It's going to move more into like a B2B transaction. You'll get developers that buy properties from you. You'll get ranchers that buy properties from you. And typically for those kinds of properties, there's just way less buyers out there for them, right? That's why at that top end of the market, some kind of value add strategy is important because it's really hard to move $1 million property, right? For a lot of reasons. I'd much rather take $1 million property, chop it up, bring it down to this mid-market where we have the most buyers that are also the most affluent. The problem with these lower end properties is $10,000 and below properties. There are buyers for them, but they don't have liquidity, right? They typically need owner financing terms. This mid-market, you have people that have liquidity and you have kind of the widest audience of potential buyers. But I love these properties. And some of those properties, as you start getting up into the higher price points, $200,000, $250,000, people can get bank financing on these deals and even less. Like we have a few deals right now that we're selling that are under $100,000 that people are getting bank financing on. It does happen. It's the minority. And that's really why we teach this strategy here, is because you have the most buyers with the most liquidity. But whether you're at the top end, you're the mid-market, you're at the low end, there's really buyers on all sides of the spectrum. It's B2C down here, B2C in the mid-market, and more B2B on the high end. So as long as you're doing these things right, there's really should never be any doubt in your mind whether you're going to sell these properties or not. Every deal we've ever bought has sold. Now, some have taken longer than others, and when I go back and reflect at what caused that, it's always a mistake in this category, right? Typically, when I first started, and for a lot of new land investors, it's a mistake in picking the correct market. Okay. Markets that have real demand where buyers are raising their hand and say, we want more land of this type. There's not enough of it. So go find that, right? Don't be an opportunist that just takes every deal that comes across your desk. Be a sniper and be really, really clear with what kind of properties you're going to go after and what kind of markets, with what kind of standards in those markets. And the next area we see people drop the ball on is pricing correctly. Okay. You're not going to maximize retail value, and that's just fine. If you don't sell a property and you've done all of these things right, you can call me personally and I'll hand you a $500 check because I've never seen it. After coaching hundreds of land investors, seeing thousands of deals, I've never, ever, ever seen someone follow this rubric and not sell their deals. Anyways, guys, I hope that was helpful. Find me on Instagram, Sumner Healey. I'll get more active on there. This video was helpful. Take care of yourself. Bye.